This episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Unfiltered discussions. Unexpected guests. No topic is off limits. From sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome to The Last Show. You know, last night I dreamt that I slept through tonight's program. It was stressful. In the dream, I turned on the radio station you're listening to right now, and all I heard was static. Wait, would that be a better program? No. This is better than static for sure. Anyway, I woke up in a cold sweat. Don't worry, I've talked it through with my therapist, but I can say this. I am very happy to be here tonight. Okay, here's what you'll learn on this evening's program. Why did the unfunny twin cross the road? To figure out why their sibling got all the laughs, in 10 minutes' time, scientists have looked into twins to see if humor is inherited. Did you get your funny from your mother or your environment? That is what we'll learn as we look into whether humor is genetic or environmental. Then, things might get a little salacious as we talk to a sex educator about being friends with couples after they break up. That's right, what happens in a custody battle over you? How much do you disclose to one person about whether you've hung out with the other? Solutions to quandaries like that coming up later in the hour. All right, that's some of tonight's program. We'll tell you more about it as the evening progresses, but for now, let's jump in.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
And in wellness trends that nobody asked for that combine a polite neighborhood walk and a deeply impolite bodily function news, we have the latest fitness trend. And here to discuss is foreign correspondent in London, England, the most polite of all societies, Tony Five.
David, we're very hello everybody, by the way, because it's quite rude not to say hello to everybody. And it's quite rude, David, what you're about to promote, isn't it?
Well, it's the latest in F&F trends, which are what, Tony?
It's fitness and farting, my friend. I believe we're now at the last days of Sodom and Gomorrah. The world has gone.
It's the end times.
This is the end times, my friend. An influencer on TikTok, whatever it's called, by the name Marilyn Smith, a cookbook author, is promoting hashtag fart walking, David.
Let's hear a clip of what she's promoting and what people on the internet seem to love, including doctors, which we'll get to in a second. But here's the clip.
Going for a fart walk after dinner is something that's going to help you age wonderfully. So about 60 minutes after we've eaten, we put on our running shoes and off we go. Now, why do we do this? Well, we eat a lot of fiber, so we have gas. Everybody does. And you fart when you walk. So that's why I named it that. But the main reason that we do the fart walks is because by walking for as little as 2 minutes, we are helping reduce our chances of developing type 2 diabetes. So, sign yourself up for fart walks.
Oh, I love the snort at the end. Is she doing snort walking as well? Belch walking, David? Is that another one?
Also, 16 minutes? Why not 15? Why not 17? Also, isn't just walking good for, don't you have diabetes? Isn't it the walking, not the flatulating?
I do, David. It's nothing to do with, I have flatulated like the best of them, and it has not gotten rid of my diabetes. I've walked a fair bit, and it does. I don't believe that, but then some dietitians, and there's an MD in the States who has said, actually, they believe in the walking after a meal is definitely get things moving around. I get that. That's fine. The fact that she's hashtag fart walking, and if you see this woman, this lovely Marilyn Smith, she is like a middle-aged, beautiful, upmarket lady.
Yeah, she's like a nice old white, prim and proper baby boomer lady.
Yeah, just a really nice, lovely hair. And she's just talking about her and her hubby going out for a crop dusting experiment every night after dinner.
If that played on British media in its entirety, all of the United Kingdom would just die in embarrassment. That would be like a weapon of mass destruction against the British people. You people are too embarrassed to talk of subjects like this.
Correct. What would happen is the majority of people would fall off their chair and hide under the nearest crevice, like behind a sofa, under a desk. We wouldn't be able to face it. The fact that she is quite a normal, nice-looking, middle-aged woman is even worse. If it was the lower dregs of society, we'd kind of accept it. Yeah, like us. We kind of accept it. But the fact that this woman's probably got a great job, she's got, what do you call that pension thing in the States? XYZ? R2D2?
Social security.
Yeah, what do you call it? You know when they work and you guys have got a KYT, XYZ, what's it called?
401k?
They're the one, yeah, R2D2. She's like the sort of person that has that. And I just think to myself, well, there's no need. What are you doing? Why do you need to get on social media? I think thousands of people have watched her, David.
As long as it's exactly 16 minutes. Now, to her credit, a board-certified internal medicine and gastroenterology expert has said it increases muscle contractions, which facilitates the emptying of the... It facilitates digestion and healthy stool. So there are people coming out of the woodwork saying a little bit of exercise after eating is good for digestion. Having said that, I think most of the health benefits are conferred by the walking, not the flatulating.
I can understand that. Like when that's explained, obviously releasing gas is probably quite good, frees up stuff, lets stuff move around and that. But it's just, I mean, really, have we got to this, David? Have we gone from, jumping jacks to walking farts? What happened?
I guess anyone could go viral these days. I used to be friends with this older stand-up comedian. She's actually still my friend. She's in her mid-70s. And she was kind of like this lady, like very put together. She played tennis in her youth, like a proper, like well put together, waspy old white lady.
Right.
And she would do these very clean stand-up comedy sets about dating older guys, but they wouldn't be vulgar, they wouldn't be rude. And about 10 minutes into her set, she would sort of build up and then use profanity as a punchline. And even though the jokes weren't that funny, everybody died because of just this juxtaposition of like a prim and proper lady and then something vulgar. And I think that's why this video is so popular.
I guess so, because I think her previous videos were kind of, because she's a cookbook author, right? So she's talking about making healthy food. She's got a little bit of lifestyle shots, but she's come across this sort of fart walking and she's claimed it. She says, Marilyn Smith is going to be on my grave, hashtag fart walking. She's proud of it.
She is. I mean, is she starting a trend? The internet seems to think she might be. It's enough that we're talking about it, but to be honest, we would have gone to the dregs of the internet to find this story. So I'm not sure how popular this really is.
Exactly. What do we know? But on that note, we would like to talk to you, Marilyn Smith. So if you're out there and listening, if we could chat to you, maybe find out actually some of the benefits and how long duration is it? Is the flatulence? Is it lengthy? Is it scatterbombed? Is it like a car engine? What are we talking? I want to know the details of what helps her.
And this is newsworthy, and doctors did say this was healthy, so me and Tony can't get in trouble from the regulatory bodies for doing stuff that's too in the gutter. Right, Tony? Right? I'm hoping?
100%. And at the bottom of the article, it does say health benefit, and it sort of forwards people to diabetes.com or something, which is amazing.
Yes, but walking is well known to help with diabetes. And so if you just, I could do... spit walking. I could do like armpit noise walking. I could do belching walking. And whatever I do, I can claim it's good for diabetes because it's got the walking and we know that's good for your health. So the claim might be a little dubious here.
I mean, technically you can do just breathing walking, right? And That is living, right? Or you could do, I'm on my iPhone walking, and that reduces your diabetes as well, right?
I think you should go to a busy square in London, like Great Queen Square or whatever you call it.
Yeah. Trafalgar, Piccadilly, yeah.
Yeah, get a little machine that makes noises to assist you in your quest, that makes vulgar noises. And then when people stare at you, just tell them that you're doing this new thing for their health benefits. We'll get a camera crew, and we'll see how the British public reacts to fart walking.
I mean, that's one way to get kicked out of the country.
You can get your citizenship cancelled for that?
Yeah, I've got full British passport and I'll still be kicked out of my own country, 100%.
Well, Tony, I know what you and I are going to do the next time you're here in New York. We're going to eat beans and we're going to go for a walk de la flatulence.
A burrito and a brisk walk, is that what they say? A burrito and... Yeah, I do like that. I think it's a very good idea. Good for her and all that sales behind her.
Tony, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for being on the show.
Cheers, buddy.
After the break, we'll cover new research that explores whether you're funny because of your genes or because of your environment. Did you get your funny from your mom or your upbringing? We'll look at identical twins to tell you which one is true.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Put us in a box. Go ahead. That just gives us something to break out of. Because the next generation 2025 GMC Terrain Elevation is raising the standard of what comes standard. As far as expectations go, why meet them when you can shatter them? What we choose to challenge, we challenge completely. We are professional grade. Visit gmc.com to learn more.
Taste the forbidden fruit of knowledge. The last show with David Cooper.
Is being funny something you're born with? The big question here. Or is it all about who you hang out with and what you've been through? Well, a new study in humor that looks at twins may unlock the answer to this question. We will dive into the science of humor, self-delusion, and cartoon caption contests here with Dr. Gil Greengross. He's an evolutionary psychologist at Aberystwyth University in Wales in the UK. Gil, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, David.
There's something fundamentally not funny about studying whether people are funny and making it into a science. Does this kind of research suck all the funny out of funny stuff, or do you get to have fun in your everyday interactions?
Oh, not at all. I'm actually, because I'm studying jokes and humor, I get to read a lot of jokes. I get to see funny things. So obviously it's a serious endeavor. So I'm an academic and I write papers and I do serious studies, but academic can be funny. And I actually just came back last week for a humor conference, and you get to hear a lot of people talking about humor research and telling a lot of jokes, seeing how ChatGPT can produce jokes, and studying stand-up comedians. So you're exposed to a lot of humor on the way to doing a research. So no complaints here.
As someone who did stand-up comedy for many years, I've thought a lot about funny. And I think a lot of people, and I actually believe this is wrong, they believe that funny is something genetic, something innate. You either have it or you don't. But I'm of the opinion that it's something you can work on, like any craft. I wouldn't be a concert pianist if I never sat down at the piano. I wouldn't be this amazing funny person if I didn't actually work at it, write, research it, try it out, try to develop my craft. So let's get to the crux here. This belief that people are funny and they're born that way, and that's it. You're either born with the funny or not. What made you choose to explore this?
Well, we know that most psychological traits are at least partially inherited. So we know that both biology and environment contribute to who you are in most traits. And I also always thought that humor is genetic and you're born with that. But we did a study on twins and we got some surprising result that kind of maybe make me think maybe otherwise. But we'll see if the result will hold.
So let's get into it. How do you test whether being funny is innate, genetic, inherited from your parents, or it's something learned, that it's based on your upbringing, based on your socialization, based on your relationships?
Right. So it is a complicated question. And in order to separate genes from environment, we use what is called the twin paradigm. So what we do, we compare identical twins that share 100% of the genes to non-identical twins that share only about 50% of the genes, just like any two siblings. So we test them on a certain trait, in this case, humorability. And if we find that identical twins are more similar on this trait than non-identical twins, then we can assume and we can conclude that the trait at least has partial genetic basis.
So how do you test for funny? Like, how can I go through this test to come to the conclusion that I'm not funny, which I'm sure it will be? Cartoon caption contest? Is that a good way to look at this?
Right. So you might be familiar with the New Yorker magazine cartoon caption task that have been used a lot for studies like this. So participants see a cartoon that doesn't have any caption, and they're asked to produce a funny caption to the cartoon. Now, this is a very difficult task, and actually most of the people that participate in this kind of studies fail miserably. But the funny people do produce something funny, and what we do is they write something, and then we give judges that are not aware about who the participants are, what's their age, gender, etc. So they're blind to any characteristic, and ask them to rate it on a scale from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, and then we determine who is the funnier one and who isn't, and then we compare the identical twins to non-identical twins to see what happens.
So what were the results? I gotta know.
So surprisingly, we found that identical twin and non-identical twin had practically the same results, meaning that identical twin did not score more closely to each other. So funny identical twins were not were also as funny as their identical co-twin, the same way that funny non-identical twin was had a funny co-twin. And the results basically say that it doesn't seem that humor might have a genetic basis, but I would maybe just some caveat to that, because we studied, the task is a little bit artificial and it's not like everyday use of humor, and it might not really capture how people are using humor in their daily life. And it's also might be different types of humor that stand-up comedians use on stage like you did. So we found this initial result that were surprising. We're a little cautious about it because this was the first study that actually looked at the humor production abilities and irritability of this trait. And we will conduct subsequent studies with different sets of twins to see if the results hold, and then we'll have maybe a clearer view of the problem.
So I guess what's missing here is a look at conversational humor, how people use conversation in their day-to-day lives. Like when I'm being funny or trying to be with my friends, I'm not doing it through cartoon captions. And so there's more research needed here. But let's get speculative. I know you're a researcher. I know you might not like this, but let's see what the big takeaways might be, even if we don't have 100% confidence in them. Based on your study, could we say that being funny is not genetic, or it's likely that it's not genetic? And if it's not genetic, where does funny come from?
Well, I wouldn't say that funny is not genetic. Again, I'll be cautious. And actually, I think based on all my understanding of humor and also other cognitive traits, because we know that creativity, intelligence has a strong genetic basis. So my guess is that there is a genetic basis. We just couldn't find it because of maybe the task, and also because our sample was quite older sample, like average age of 66, and it was also skewed mostly women, 90% women. So these things can kind of skew the result. But if it does hold true, that means that the environmental factors like how you are raised, how your parents talk with you, what jokes they tell you, that's what determines a sense of humor, but also your peers, how you joke with your friends, how you go about at school. That's like seem to be very important in developing your humor.
So one way to get funny, if this is all true, and I know it's just initial results, is to choose a funny friend group or grow up in a funny household. Like, would that be a surefire way to become a more funny person?
Yes, that would be. I mean, we don't always determine who obviously our parents are or siblings are, and we can have more choice who our friends are. But sometimes we use humor actually to compensate of other traits of people, for example, that are maybe sometimes a bullied kid, sometimes use humor to kind of gain a little bit more leverage against other. Like Mel Brooks famously said that you don't beat the guy that make you laugh. So we use humor in different ways where when we are in social groups, and I think the way that kids mainly use it can affect how humor will eventually develop and how it will manifest itself when they're older.
What's next in your funny research?
Well, I'm trying to do a replication study for this study with a different set of twins that will be hopefully better sample, also maybe with different tasks. And I'm also generally interested in studying stand-up comedians and other humor attribute as well.
Well, evolutionary psychologist Dr. Gil Greengross works at Aberystwyth University in Wales in the UK. Gil, thank you for talking to me today. I appreciate you coming on the show.
No, thanks for inviting me.
After the break, we won't give you another report on how social media use makes you dumber and fall victim to news that isn't true. Because in some cases, according to a new study, if you just follow the right accounts, social media can help you better detect fake news and even boost your trust in journalism. It's the opposite of doom and gloom on your feed, and we'll give you details in a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want, like that dream house or ride, is a great feeling. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you save when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
The only talk show with an introduction that mentions its own introduction. And that's happening right now in this introduction. The last show with David Cooper.
Begging for a mention. Yeah, you just want attention.
It seems every day we hear reports of how certain uses of social media can make us dumber, sure. But can social media actually make us smarter? Well, a surprising new study says yes, but only if we follow the right accounts. Just 2 weeks of following certain news organizations on platforms like Instagram helped people better detect fake news and even boosted their trust in journalism. Let's dig in with Dr. Sacha Altay, who's a misinformation trust and social media researcher at the University of Zurich. Sacha, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, David.
What made you want to test whether more exposure to news on social media could actually be a good thing? It seems like most reports we hear right now is news on social media can at times be iffy. That's what everyone seems to be interested in. Why look at the positive side here?
Yeah, well, I think one of our main motivation was that there is so much negative coverage and negative discourse about the effect of social media. And of course, in many ways, social media have negative effects. But of course, there are also positive effects. But we think that they're understudied. So we're like, well, what about looking at these positive effects? And for instance, I personally really like the fact that we chose France, because in France, we have this news influencer, Hugo Decrypt, that's actually very, very popular, even among young people. And he does a very good job at informing people. And basically, he's very present on social media, and people mostly follow him on social media. So I wanted also to measure his positive effects.
Interesting. So there are influencers out there with a lot of power. They have a huge following. And if they do good journalism, that could potentially have positive effects. Is that kind of the hypothesis coming in?
Yes, basically. But funny story, he has become so big in France that now he's considered a media outlet. He's no longer considered an influencer, and we are not going to go into that. But the definition of influencer is very iffy and vague. And
Yeah, I suppose if you get big enough, eventually you're sort of like considered traditional media, or maybe not traditional, but official. Okay, so what can following certain accounts improve in my life, or what positive benefits can it have?
I mean, at least in our study, what it did is that people were more exposed to true news. They were also better at saying that true news is true. So they were a bit better at that. They also became a little bit more trusting of the news, and they had more knowledge of like some basic facts about the world. And these effects are not big, but they only followed two accounts for 2 weeks. So basically, people were a little bit more knowledgeable, and many of the negative effects that we tried to measure did not appear. Like it did not make people, I don't know, more polarized or anything.
Are you surprised that these effects could be observed in just 2 weeks? I feel like that's if I could just get my uncle who believes that like the earth is flat to follow an account for 2 weeks, I could get positive benefits there.
I mean, again, the effects are very small, and at the individual level, you may not even feel it. And actually, participants did not report feel it. When we asked participants how informed they are before the treatment and after the treatment, people do not feel more informed, but they were actually slightly more informed. And the thing is that this is an experiment, so we asked and basically paid participants to follow these accounts. But of course, in the real world, people follow whoever they want, and they tend to follow people they agree with. And so if your uncle believes in conspiracy theory, he is more likely to follow conspiracy theory accounts rather than NPR or the New York Times, let's say.
So what exactly did the participants learn when they followed these accounts? Like you say that they didn't report feeling more knowledgeable, didn't report feeling any of these positive effects, but you must have tested for them. So what exactly were they kind of learning throughout this process?
Yes, so basically they just learned about, so there were 2 weeks between the waves, and participants learned about what happened in the news during that time. I forgot exactly what it was, but I don't know, news about the war in Ukraine and Russia, and like some very small facts, some news events that appeared between these waves. And we also have these knowledge measures, which are a bit broader. In our case, it was in Europe. So it was, for instance, when is the next European election? And so participants were a bit more knowledgeable about that, for instance.
Let's talk the bigger implications here. A lot of people assume that getting news on social media is like blanket bad, like social media news, terrible. Does your study challenge that idea?
I mean, of course, we did not compare social media to other forms of media, and it's possible that, I don't know, following the news on radio or TV brings greater benefits than following the news on social media. But I think what's interesting is that we know that people are on social media, and more people in the world are turning to social media for news. So I think it's very important to measure what's the effect of this news consumption on social media. It doesn't mean news on social media is perfect, but we know, for instance, that a lot of people are not very interested in the news, but they accidentally stumble on news while scrolling on social media. And so I think that's one reason why social media platforms should promote social news on social media, especially for these people who are disinterested and are just scrolling through social media, but all of a sudden they may stumble on important news about the next elections, for instance.
So is there a certain responsibility that companies like Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or X, Twitter have? Like our feeds are so dominated by their quote unquote algorithms that are often opaque. We don't know how they work. Do you think these companies have some responsibility to nudge people towards credible news while they're doing the daily scrolling?
I think they do. And at least participants, when you ask people what they want to see on social media, people overwhelmingly report that they want informative content, they want accurate content. And I think, of course, the platforms, their business model is to maximize engagement and the time we spend on the platforms. But so I think they should find a balance between, of course, keeping users on the platform and making money, but also keeping them informed and knowledgeable.
If you could design some tweaks to these feeds that would cause people to trust the news a little more and more likely to believe what's true, what tweaks would you want to make?
I mean, exposing people to quality news, whether it is like the BBC in the UK, the New York Times in the US. So I think exposing people to more news would be good. But there are many various ways. And of course, it's a bit difficult maybe it's not the responsibility of the platform to determine like what is good news, what is bad news. Like, of course, this is a very difficult decision to make, and maybe it can be more like crowdsourced, like people decide what's best, and it's difficult.
Could we infer like a kind of a negative result from your findings? Like if we nudge people towards disreputable, if that's even a word, towards influencers and social media figures that put out misinformation and disinformation, we would have negative effects that kind of mirror the positive effects that you're seeing?
I mean, there are actually studies that did exactly what you said. They asked participants who follow, let's say, problematic influencers in the US who are polarizing. And so they paid participants to unfollow them, and unfollowing the bad content basically improved the participants' knowledge and many things. So you cannot exactly infer it from our findings, but from the broader scientific literature, we know that following the news has positive effects, and following, like, I don't know, so these polarizing influencers in the US has negative effects.
That's so interesting that they paid people to unfollow problematic figures.
Mm-hmm.
Anything next in your research or any other interesting things that have come up that you want to explore?
Currently, I'm working a bit on generative AI and misinformation, and I'm trying to understand the implications of the use and the tools that generative AI offer on the information environment and on misinformation and how it relates to democracy and elections.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you coming on the show, Sacha.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Dr. Sacha Altay is a misinformation trust and social media researcher at the University of Zurich. Guess what? I'll give you 3 guesses. All of them are wrong, probably. Here's what. The last show is available as a podcast, so if you like what you hear but you're just tuning in, or you're not going to be with us the whole evening on a given night, fear not. You can stream the show as a podcast. Head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's lastshow.pizza, not .com, and there you can find out details, including how to subscribe. And my mother would like it if you did. Subscribe, that is. That's what she would like. Nothing else. I mean, maybe some other things. Coming up after the break, split custody of your friendship after a breakup. That is, how to stay friends with a broken up couple when you've got a pretty good relationship with both partners. It can be a tricky thing to navigate. Like if Sally just hooked up with someone new and it's steamy, do you pass the details on to her ex, Sarah? That is the question. The ethics, the do's and do nots, and just generally how to stay friends with a broken up couple up next.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. Central Texas Regional Mobility Authority is using Google AI to create smarter tolling systems and improve traffic flow for Texans. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American Innovation.
It's time for Sex Etc. with Samantha Bitty. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Wow, what happens when you are caught in the crossfire? Today we are talking about split custody of friendships here on Sex Etc. with Samantha Bitty, sexual health and consent educator. I'm sure you've had I'm sure you've had friends that you've been friends with person A and person B in a couple, and when they split, you stay friends with both of them. And it is a situation fraught with trouble. It can be, at least. We're here with Samantha Bitty to discuss. Samantha, welcome in.
Thank you, David.
I myself am very much a I'm friends with both of you kind of person when I befriend couples. I'm not like I'm just buddies with the dude or I'm just buddies with them. I kind of go for both people, and it's happened to me numerous times. Is this something that's come up in your life a lot?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially as we enter into the second wave of divorce. Like, you and I both got divorced young.
Yes.
So we were kind of outliers in that regard. But now we're in this other wave, I think, at least at our age. But just in general, I mean, this goes back to like even being in high school, being in elementary school, and people are dating and you're friends with both people. And they decide to split up, and there can be a little bit of like, me versus them or you versus me. Like, and what does it look like, to Switzerland about it? And Sometimes it's a really clear-cut case, I think. Sometimes you're friends with a couple where you just have a relationship with one of the people and the other person is just kind of like part of your world because of them. It's an easy, full custody situation. And then there are times when someone did something wild and you're like, wow, like I actually can't be friends with you anymore because you're on some wild stuff.
It's messy. Like it's a sort of a moral or ethical decision. Like you behaved badly to my friend and I can't accept a friendship with you.
Are, like on principle. And then there's the times that I think make sense for us to discuss today, which is when, whatever, relationships end and you do have a relationship with both people. And, how do you navigate that? And I think a lot of it relies on the emotional maturity and intelligence of the parties involved. And then also our own, like what part can we be in possession of? Like what can we control?
Sure. Now, one thing that I want to get out right the gate, get on right out the gate. I said some version of a correct thing there. The passing of information. I have been guilty of using third parties who have been friends with both me and my wonderful ex-spouse to get like an update, a life update. Notably, my brother is still friends with my ex-wife. And so every now and again, I do the check-in, which is like, whatever, I have bad boundaries. Maybe I shouldn't ask. But what do you do when you're that friend? What do you do when you're my brother in the abstract sense? Trust me, you don't want to be him. And the friend asks for the update of the partner, to spell this out. What's going on with my ex? How do you answer those questions?
What I've learned at this stage of life is it's important to be proactive. So being proactive and being boundaried, like out the gate, being like, I'm not going to be the person who's in between here. Like, I'm not going to relay information. I can, and I can always tell when I'm with someone and they're telling me something that I know they want me to then, make sure they're like, even if it's not as direct, like you have to stay like vigilant and be like, okay, this person is trying to get me to pass along whatever. When it's an explicit ask, I really do try to stay neutral and be like, I'd rather not be the person in the middle. They can find someone else to do that messy business. I don't want to be that person because you end up in broken telephone. You end up in suddenly you're the villain. Like nothing good comes of it. And I do think it's important, even at the onset of a breakup, letting somebody know, like, look, whatever we talk about is between us. I'm not going to be a go-between.
There's a problem here. People like me who have BLBE, big little brother energy. I love attention, and it's like such a way. You got to be careful, and you got to manage your own impulses that aren't great. But like, it's such a quick way to be a focal point in a way. Like I was just the friend, but now I'm this focal point. I'm the go-between. It's lots of attention. With great power comes great responsibility. It can be tempting, right? Like to get into a mess just for the drama of it all.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you like gossip, especially if, as you said, you like the attention, you like the power. It's like, oh, I'm the trusted one or whatever. For me, present day, I'm not like I suggest if you want to have sustainable relationships with both parties as they grow, as they heal, as they change, as we do, ideally, you operate from a place of neutrality and not I said Switzerland, but not in the Switzerland way, because not doing anything when there's evil afoot, that isn't neutral, but I digress. I also think that if you're the couple, if you're the people who have parted ways, I invite just a reflection on the ways in which when we're in a partnership and we've invited friends into that partnership, that friend has a relationship to our relationship. Right. And they're going through their own grief about it. And I know that when I've been the person who is in the couple and there are mutual friends who feel like they have to choose a side or whatever, I tend to be proactive and selective around which friends I might talk about my ex to. because those things don't necessarily stay true as you heal and grow.
Sure. What about like sexual aftershock? I'm using a buzzword. Like when XA sleeps with somebody and then you know that your other friend XB is going to not be happy with it, and now you have this new information. Do you relay it? Like, that's the hardest part, right? When someone moves on and starts dating, or maybe they haven't moved on and they've started dating. Do you say something? Are you upfront with it? Are you clear that you're not going to communicate, like you said earlier? Like, how do you deal with a situation like that?
Yeah, I think that has a lot of nuance. It really depends on the parties involved. And you know how I feel about autonomy and consent. And we have to distinguish between what is our information to share, right? Like, where are people entitled to privacy? What's the difference between privacy and secrecy? And I do, again, comes back to that thing of being proactive and saying, like, okay, you're telling me this. What if so and so asks me? Like, what do I do? Right. And again, I personally, I can't, me, Samantha, as a friend, as a whoever, like, of course, I've been the one to be like, oh my God, they've whatever. But I would invite us to evaluate our motives. Why am I telling this person? Like, let's say the friend who's not quote unquote moved on, and they're still like carrying a torch, or they're still like romanticizing the situation. In that sense, it might be like humane to be like, look, I think that they've moved on.
Yeah.
Like, and again, it's going to be on a case by case basis. It's going to be depends on how close you are with people, how well you know them. But I definitely think that the pathway to peace is to not be the go-between.
The pathway to peace is to not be the go-between. What about social events? Like, there's certain social events where you really do want to include both of them. Maybe it's a wedding. Maybe it's a holiday party. Who knows what? How do you navigate that?
Again, you let them know the situation and you let them know the expectations for behavior, right? It's like, I just want you to know that so-and-so is coming. I care about you both. And also, like, how does this feel? I can check in with you throughout the night, or like maybe you should bring someone so that you have like a safe person that helps you to feel grounded. Like, just doing that emotional pre-pro, and let adult people make their own decisions.
It all boils down to negotiating boundaries up front, which I feel like is so many things that we talk about. Samantha, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Samantha Bitty, sexual health and consent educator. Up next, why one film director is trying to Jurassic Park an ancient bird to resurrect it from the dead, from extinction. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
The McDonald's Snack Wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch Snack Wrap. Spicy Snack Wrap. You broke the internet for a snack. Snack Wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Broadcasting from the intersection of chaos and more chaos. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. Jurassic Park. Also Cliff Redford. It is Vet Talk, Pet Talk. We are talking de-extinction of a 600-year-old dead. 600-year-old, a bird that's been gone for 600 years with Dr. Cliff Redford. Check out his podcast, Vet Life. I'll stop talking. Cliff, welcome to the show.
That was a great opening line. I couldn't do a better Jeff Goldblum, whatever his name is, impersonation. And if I could, I should. I got to ask if I should. See, I couldn't have gotten it.
Yeah, brain, how does it work? Nobody knows. Yeah, that's a great line. You know, the scientists in Jurassic Park play God. They create the dinosaurs, but they never consider, will the dinosaurs bite us? And then in the movie, they did get bit.
They did.
Yep.
But it was a great movie. And then all others afterwards, not so much.
I admit I've never seen anything but the first one. Tell me about this bird that the creator of Lord of the Rings is the movie, not J.R.R.
Tolkien. Yeah, Mr. Peter Jackson. So apparently Peter Jackson's got a love-in for this bird. He has between 400 and 500 bones of this moa bird, MOA. The moa bird is, I guess it's basically a giant ostrich, or a giant emu. It roamed the earth in New Zealand like 40,000 years ago, and then died off 600 years ago when the Maori people came to New Zealand, and they basically outhunted it, or they hunted it to extinction. It is 12 feet tall, weighs 510 pounds, but has no wings, like not even vestigial. It is literally a wingless, flightless, obviously, bird. And for whatever reason, Peter Jackson's in love with it. So he's working with the people from Colossal Biosciences in their de-extinction project.
That's a great name for a company. Colossal Biosciences.
It sounds like a bunch of like gym rats, gym bros. Colossal Biosciences, protein, creatine, testosterone.
I'm going to just use the word allegedly because I don't want to get sued, and I know we got Lord of the Rings money behind this, but it sounds like the kind of company that is like a pump and dump scheme, like invest in Colossal, and then you think you're doing great, and then at the last minute, you're done, allegedly.
Well, they did what they said. Well, that's not true. They did what they said they were going to do with the dire wolf. They are the ones that apparently, air quotes, my eyebrows are popping up, my eyes are rolling in the back of my head. They brought back the dire wolf, but did they really know? What all they did was they took some of the gene sequence from dire wolf bones, which is what they're going to be doing with this moa bird. They're going to be taking some of Peter Jackson's bones that he has of this moa bird, pull out some of the DNA, and then basically alter the DNA of an emu. Or with the dire wolf, they did it with a gray wolf, and then they altered the DNA, not to make it the same, but just to make it look like a dire wolf or look like a moa. So they're basically just they took the gray wolf and made it into a giant gray wolf, and they're taking the emu and turning it into a giant emu and saying it's a moa bird.
It's like more like a hybrid than it is a strict new species or reintroduced species.
I don't even know if it's a hybrid. It's more like they're just changing the phenotype, the physical characteristics. It's like the American Kennel Club that's playing with all these weird breeded dogs, and they're coming up with health problems. That's my segue.
Yeah, they're flipping a few DNA switches for looks. It's like if you made me taller, but that's it. Just get rid of the short Jewish gene and then the tall non-Jewish gene, but that's it. I'm still me.
And then they would say, "Oh, you're actually from the Neanderthal species because you're bigger, because you have almost the same DNA as them." That's what they're doing. But I'm trying to find this. Oh, Peter Jackson has this quote: "The movies are my day job, and the MOA are my fun thing I do." And then the plan is they're going to release them into enclosed rewilding sites. This sounds like he's setting up for another Jurassic Park. He wants to be the next one.
Yeah, but instead of the birds killing people, they could if you do this, you could disrupt an ecosystem. It's basically an introduced species at this point.
Yeah, didn't they learn this in Australia not to do this with all the animals they kept bringing in? To get rid of the cane toads, and then it was bunny rabbits to get rid of the weeds, and then they had to bring in cats to get rid of the bunny rabbits. And, Bob's my uncle. This is a ridiculous idea. He put $15 million into this thing. Brilliant for Colossal Biosciences to get that money out of him. But it just, I don't know. What's the point? Why not? So the experts are saying, look, first of all, it's not going to be a moa bird, just like the dire wolf's not a dire wolf. And if it is, are you now introducing a species that, as Jeff Goldblum said in Jurassic Park, had its chance. It wasn't wiped out from deforestation or polluting the water. It was wiped out due to natural selection from hunting, from primitive man, essentially. Are you going to introduce diseases? Are you going to introduce problems? And how about we focus on the creatures that are actually with us right now and almost going extinct? Why not focus on them and create sanctuaries instead of these rewilding sites that they're going to keep this supposed moa bird in? It's so dumb.
It is. And Sir Peter Jackson dropped 15 big ones, or big ones are thousands, 15 extra large big ones, $15 million on this project. And I just feel like conservation projects that are way more helpful, way more in the now, not just getting a beautiful, fun, interesting, extinct bird that you love back. I think the money would have been better spent in programs like that.
Yeah. And are they beautiful? Arguably. Did he love them? Well, he loves the idea of them. He's just fascinated by this thing that he can't have. It's just this.
That's another thread to the story. It's playing God and it's wanting what you can't have.
Well, that's right. And who was it that said the secret to getting what you want is being happy with what you have?
Mick Jagger.
Oh,
yeah.
Was it? I thought it was Sheryl Crow.
You can't always get what you want. That one?
Well, I was thinking of the Sheryl Crow song.
What's that one?
That it's essentially. I'm not going to be able to sing it because I can't remember it exactly. But I don't understand it. It's playing God. It's compensating for something. I can't get it.
It's always comes back to compensating for something with you, Cliff.
I think so. Well, there you go. Yeah, so that's the story, and Peter Jackson, shame on you.
And I just think there are like efforts for really cool animals that are endangered, that are in the here and now. The money, if you really like love bringing the idea of bringing back an animal or helping a cool animal that's on the brink, there are good places you can go put that money.
There's so many projects out there. I mean, some really cool bats are dying from white nose syndrome, which is a fungus that makes it look like they have a little cocaine powder on their nostrils that they're dying from. What a way to go. Or, the Jamaican iguana thought extinct in the 1960s and the late 1990s. They found some up on Hellshire Hills and they created a sanctuary and brought this animal back from extinction. So
more pet news, including why PETA has filed a lawsuit against the American Kennel Club for promoting breeds which kind of have unhealthy genetic traits. Details and some of the more outlandish publicity stunts that PETA has done with Dr. Cliff Redford. It's Vet Talk or Pet Talk, and we'll continue with Cliff in a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
The Red Hot Clearance event is on right now at Burlington, and I'm excited for the markdowns. It's all about savings on top of savings throughout the store. This is when I stock up on styles for my closet, home decor, and much more because there's up to 70% off other retailers' prices on clearance. I mean, I'm going every day because these prices, too hot to miss. Burlington. Deals, brands, wow. Styles and selections may vary by location.
We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The last show with David Cooper.
Dr. Cliff Redford is here. It is Vet Talk. Check out his podcast, Vet Life. You can find that on any podcast app. Cliff, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Look, I just love PETA, I gotta say. And I don't want to like poo-poo them too much. I just love any organization that does not shy away from the publicity stunt. PETA embraces the publicity stunt to achieve their goals. I don't necessarily agree with everything they stand for. I care a lot about animal welfare, and they do too, which is great. But yeah, you gotta hand it to them. They're always going for the publicity stunt. And this time it's no different. They are suing the American Kennel Club, a very like prim and proper organization that cares a lot about tradition and manners and all things like this. This is a mess, and I love it. Welcome to the show again. Did I already welcome you? I'm a little brain dead.
That's fine. PETA is all in. They're all in, always. quick before we get into this, I had a client come to me years ago, and she was probably early 20s, very attractive, which I'll get to in a second why that's important.
I'm telling your wife.
And she worked for PETA, and she was a supporter of PETA, obviously, vegan, that sort of thing. And she ended up saying, I'm going to give you my work number, in case there's an emergency with my dog. But if you ever call, you can't tell them I have a dog, because PETA does not they do not support people having pets. They feel it is enslaving animals.
I mean, if you kind of think about it, they're not wrong. You imagine you treated a human being like I treat my cat. Like we open the front door and then I say to Miranda, he's getting for the door, and we slam it. If you did that to a person, you would be thrown in jail, hopefully for a long time.
Well, you do that for babies.
True.
Right? Toddlers. We put them on leashes.
Pets are like that their whole life.
Yeah, but I mean, they also stay small, and they have the intelligence of a toddler for their entire life. So
does that entitle us to trap a species in our homes? I'm not saying I agree with it. I just say there's a point there. That's all.
This is my entire livelihood, David. What are you doing to me, man?
I own a cat, and I do not feel morally compromised for it, but I get where PETA's coming from when they say taking another species. That's another thing. A human baby is not another species. Taking another species and trapping them in their house, there's something a little messed up about it.
I don't know. I don't see it that way.
I don't either, but I get where they're coming from.
So people don't think I'm creepy. The reason I mentioned how attractive she was is she was then going away to one of those where they have the running of the bulls, and PETA they specifically pick young, attractive adult women to run naked the day before running of the bulls to sort of gain attention. And they get enough attention to have people talking about it, like this incredibly award-winning, like on this award-winning radio show podcast that you have. So PETA is suing the AKC right down the street from you in the Manhattan Supreme Court.
Oh, wow, that is not far.
That is not far. So they are basically suing the AKC, the American Kennel Club, for promoting unhealthy breed standards, specifically in the Bulldog, French Bulldog, Pug, Chinese Shar-Pei, and Dachshund. And I gotta say, I generally don't agree with a lot of their stance, but I kind of get this one. I don't agree with the Dachshund, but they basically talk about the American Kennel Club standards are causing deformities, great suffering, and premature death. We've had on your podcast, on your radio show, episode 249. I don't know. I just made that up. We talked about the French Bulldog being the one breed, or the number one breed, that veterinarians never want to own. So AKC says they did not create the breed standards, and instead they're just creating classifications that are clear, consistent, reflect breed health, function, and type, and that they care so much about the health of their purebred dogs. I got to call hogwash on all of this. They have accepted and rewarded such extreme physical standards for these animals that now we have massive skin disorders, blown backs and paralysis in the Dachshunds and in the Pugs and in the French Bulldogs, breathing issues in the Bulldogs and the French Bulldogs and the Pugs, all kinds of autoimmune conditions in the Chinese Shar-Pei. So this isn't going to go anywhere, but it's a good one. I'm going to give a gold star. I'm going to give a cookie for being a good boy and girl to PETA for this one.
They care about animals to a fault. They take it to extremes, like you were saying about a publicity stunt with attractive people running naked to protest the bulls. They know how to start the conversation, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of people don't agree with some of the extreme points, but I think we can all agree that, like, how good is it that we're like really, really specializing in these breeds that have health problems?
It's not good at all. It's not good at all. And I would, all joking aside, yeah, I make a lot of money when someone brings in a French Bulldog for their slightly shortened life. I know they're going to have a lot of problems. I would rather just see a mixed breed dog that's been adopted, and only see them for wellness exams and get to cuddle with them, because it's sad. These poor dogs are traumatized. It's like the hairless cats. They have so many health problems.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's move on to our next topic, sunburns in pets. I've always just thought animals don't get sunburned, like it's a human problem. And I have no good reason to think that, and I am wrong when I think that.
You are wrong. They can get sunburned. It's definitely not as common. I mean, I think half the time we get sunburned is because we're going out to get sun therapy. We're going to get a tan and we stay too long, right? But it is similar to people. The light-skinned, fair-skinned people, light-haired people are more sensitive to UV rays. Well, so are the light-furred and light-skinned dogs and cats. So like, again, the bulldogs and some of the white mastiffs, Dalmatians, anything like that. And they're susceptible to getting sunburn on especially the tips of their ears, the bridge of their nose, the lining of their lips, and then even on their bellies, because UV radiation bounces off the ground and hits their bellies. What people forget too is if your dog or cat has had surgery and the fur's been shaved away, that area is incredibly susceptible to sunburn because all the fur is gone. So it causes problems. It can cause redness and irritation and scabs and blistering and infections and melanoma. Dogs and cats can get skin cancer from this.
Wow. I didn't realize that fur... I just thought that fur completely protects against the sun. I don't know why, but I get. What if your animal has like a lot of skin showing between their fur, like on their faces, like near my cat's ears and over his eyebrows? I noticed that area was red the other day and he bakes in the sun. Could he be getting sunburnt, or is his pigment too dark because he's a black cat?
It's very unlikely, and you're going to get some of the UV radiation is going to get altered coming through the window. I'm assuming he's indoors because we've already talked about that you're enslaving him by keeping him inside. You cruel, cruel man. But it's probably more red that he was just getting warm, and so the body was sort of flushing out some of that heat. But you can always get some vet-approved, some animal-safe sunblock to put on him. That would be fine, but don't use the human stuff.
Oh.
It has this stuff called PABA, para-aminobenzoic acid, in it, which if the animals lick it, they get super sick, and then they got to come and see me, and I have to charge you lots of money.
Cliff, what a pleasure it was having you on the show. Check out Cliff's podcast, Vet Life. Dr. Cliff Redford is the man of the last 10 minutes, man of the hour, man of the year. Cliff, thank you again.
Thanks, man.
If you've turned on a television or listened to the news, I'm sure you've heard the debacle that is the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Epstein did some horrible, awful, atrocious things and then died mysteriously in his jail cell. The U.S. government has not released enough files to satisfy the public on the matter. But I want you to consider this lens. When you appeal to conspiratorial thinking to try to get elected, when you do get elected, there might be fallout. And that fallout is what you're seeing play out in the media as it comes to the Epstein files. So what are the lessons? We'll look into those on Conspiracy Corner in a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
At Blinds.com, it's not just about window treatments. It's about you, your style, your space, your way. Whether you DIY or want the pros to handle it all, you'll have the confidence of knowing it's done right. From free expert design help to our 100% satisfaction guarantee, everything we do is made to fit your life and your windows. Because at Blinds.com, the only thing we treat better than windows is you. Visit Blinds.com now for up to 50% off with minimum purchase plus a professional measure at no cost. Rules and restrictions apply.
The last show with David Cooper. Procrastinate your life away with us.
Everyone's talking about it. We are going to go over it too, but under the analytical lens of this, the dangers of tapping into conspiracy theories to achieve political gain. And what better case to look at than the strange tale of Jeffrey Epstein? I don't know if you've turned on a television or a news station right now, but that seems to be all everyone's talking about. It is Conspiracy Corner. We are joined by Professor of Conspiracy Studies at Humber Polytechnic, who co-hosts the Uncover Up podcast. His name is Nathan Radke. He's an alleged alien as well. Nathan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
I see why politicians do it. There are people that can get easily outraged and people that believe in conspiracy theories, especially in topics of government things where we don't know. Like, we don't know what happened to JFK. We don't really know. We don't know what happened in Roswell. We don't really know, except maybe we do. But regardless, there are all these people out there that have fringe beliefs. And if you can tap into them, you got voters.
Yeah, there's such a narrow margin in democracy between winning and losing. And you have to grab up every little group that you can, especially those motivated groups, especially those groups that you can sort of tap into an energy and it energizes your entire campaign. And this is partly why in recent years we've seen this movement from politicians from every political stripe, where they are super tempted by one specific kind of energy, and that is the energy of conspiracism. The kind of paranoid energy that says something is crooked, something is wrong, something is being hidden from us, and we deserve to know. And you can see why that's such a tempting energy, especially now when it really does feel like things are kind of crooked, where it really does feel like things are tilted against the average person. And then conspiracy theories are there and provide us these extremely satisfying and seductive stories. And so, of course, politicians are going to think, man, we need to get us some of this.
And what better case to look at than Jeffrey Epstein? This guy was a 100 millionaire, billionaire, private jets. It's been proven his accomplice is now in prison. It's been proven that he engaged in sexual misconduct, in sex trafficking, in awful things. The guy's arrested. He's about to be on trial. He kills himself in the cell. I mean, it feels fishy. I'm not going to make any claims about what happened beyond what we know, but I can see why people get really, really energized that this perception that the elite and powerful are taking advantage and committing crimes and are doing acts that are an offense to all of humanity. And we want to know what happened.
Yeah, it's 100% understandable. I mean, when you study conspiracy theories, you come across a bunch where you think, well, this is ridiculous. This one's absurd. The idea that Epstein did not kill himself, that's a very understandable one. You can completely see why people believe it. It's even one of those ones that I definitely will entertain. I will look for evidence for this because there's some sketchy aspects to it. I mean, everybody, I'm sure, knows this terrible story of this terrible man. Starts out as a physics teacher, somehow becomes extremely wealthy and connected, claims to be a financial advisor, gets connected to a bunch of shady deals and Ponzi schemes, and in the mid-2000s, has enough money to buy himself a mansion on a private island. Long list of wealthy, famous people. They visit that island, and of course, according to several sources, he has hidden video cameras all around that mansion, and of course, tragically and terribly, commits human trafficking with underage girls. And he gets charged with it in 2005 and gets a bizarrely lenient sentence. And so right away, people are saying, well, wait, these are terrible crimes. Why is the sentence so light? And he continues getting investigated to the point where in 2019, he gets charged again, FBI, federal sex trafficking offenses. And in August, he's found dead in his cell, hanged with his bed sheets. And it's ruled almost immediately a suicide. But the thing is, there were strict protocols in place for inmates at risk of self-harm. You have to have a cellmate. You have to have regular guard checks. And then what we find afterwards, and this all feeds into the conspiratorial idea, the cameras aren't working. The guards they're not making their appointed rounds. The guards are falsifying documents. They're apparently even asleep for a while. His cellmate gets taken out. There's a bone in his neck that is broken that's more associated with being strangled than hanging oneself. The footage that were eventually shown from the jail has a missing minute in it.
Yeah, there's like a glitchy timestamp. I mean, that's like right out of like a spy movie where someone's tampering with video.
Yeah, if you were trying to get people fired up in a conspiratorial mood, all you need is that quick little blip on the video where you say, wait a second, this just skipped ahead. And the claim is that it's just a glitch. But I mean, obviously that missing minute is going to get more attention than any clip since like the Zapruder film. And there's been so many other kind of reasonable theories that have been floating around. Things like, was Epstein perhaps an asset to intelligence agencies? I mean, it's true. We know that intelligence agencies have had a long time interest in gathering compromising dirt on people in order to blackmail them into cooperation. I mean, the 1950s and 60s, there was that sub-project of MKUltra, Operation Midnight Climax, in which the CIA was developing methods to maneuver people into compromising situations, which could then be secretly recorded. So none of this is wildly outside the realm of possibility, as wild as some of it sounds.
And then the actual evidence from his death is like so shady, as you just outlined. So you get all these like theories, you get all the shady evidence, and then you get one political party campaigning on releasing these files when they get in power, tapping into those that believe something shady happened for political gain, to get votes, to get energized. And yeah, do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need to talk about that. This is such, I mean, this specific conspiracy theory, a lot of theories tend to lean to one side of the political aisle, the other side of the political aisle. But the idea that Epstein hadn't taken his own life, but had been murdered, that's a conspiracy that's got widespread appeal from not just across the United States, but across the world. I mean, it has become a meme. You see it spray painted on overpasses. You see people making references in interviews. Like, this is everywhere and wildly popular.
Yeah, like if you ever watch C-SPAN, like the U.S. political channel where they do call-in segments and they take calls from voters on like topics, you'll get callers that just call in, pretend to be on topic, and then just scream, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. I don't know, one part joking, one part questioning power. This has like been a part of the zeitgeist ever since it happened.
Yeah, and completely understandably, as you pointed out earlier on, this is kind of like the distillation, the manifestation of something that people have been feeling for a long time, that there are basically two rules for people. There is the rules for the elite, and there's the rules for the rest of us. And so this idea that this terrible human being, who is extremely powerful, extremely influential, has been moving in these circles with all sorts of very influential and powerful human beings and committing just some of the worst crimes.
Heinous acts.
Terrible, terrible things. Things that other people might do much, much less than and get punished more severely for. And so when we're living in a time of great social inequality, when we're living in a time of great stress, when we're living in a time where people are uncertain about holding on to their jobs and holding on to their savings, it just feels like things are crooked and tilted in favor of the elites. And so a story like this, which is so cartoonishly evil and terrible, you can see why it has appeal and why people are like, you know what? No way. No way does this guy take his own life. This is part of this larger crooked system that basically helps to explain all of the feelings of terror and uncertainty that people have been feeling for the last little while.
Well, let's talk about the files, these documents that the FBI has, that the government has, that they're saying they were going to release when the current administration came in. They basically said they would give a certain number of days till they'd be released. People voted based on wanting to know all the facts here.
Yeah, this was one of the things that got repeated frequently, not only by Trump during the campaign, but also by the people who were working for Trump. There were a lot of people, particularly on the right, like QAnon had become pretty popular in the last few years, and this was just the perfect QAnon story because it had all of the awful things. It had the elites, it had the trafficking, it had all of those things. Within a few hours of Epstein's death being announced, Trump actually retweeted a post blaming the Clintons for the death. So he was an early adopter of this conspiracy theory.
I'm sure he was. When we come back, we'll dig more into the cautionary tale of tapping into conspiracy theories for political gain as we watch the fallout from the Epstein files in the news right now. We're here with Nathan Radke. It's Conspiracy Corner. More of this in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. The Last Show with David Cooper, where intimacy meets insanity.
It is Conspiracy Corner. We are joined by Nathan Radke. We are talking the current controversy around the release, or maybe not release, of the Epstein files and what is contained in them and how people are responding, but moreover, talking about the dangers of tapping into conspiracy theories to achieve political gain. Nathan, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
So yes, where we are in the story is around the time Jeffrey Epstein died. The media reported he killed himself. That was the original narrative. We've got an upcoming election, and we've got a political party that's basically blaming the other one. We have Trump saying that Clinton was responsible for Epstein's death, retweeting it, being an earlier adopter of that conspiracy theory. So really tapping into those that would believe something shady happened when Epstein passed away.
And it fit in well with a narrative that had already been developing in the conspiracy world, which is, as we referenced in the first half, the QAnon idea. And basically, QAnon says that there are this cabal of elites on the left who are secretly doing terrible things. They're cannibals, they're child abusers, and basically they're manipulating everything behind the scenes. And so the death of Epstein, it seems at first that it would be ideal for those purposes to continue trying to get people engaged in that idea. But there was a problem for the people on the political right, because, of course, and this is like well established, one of the famous people with close ties to Epstein was Donald Trump himself. Before the sex trafficking charges, Trump had mentioned his friendship with Epstein in radio interviews. There's footage of the men partying together, which has been shown an awful lot on TV and on the internet in the last little while. Epstein had recruited at least one of the underage girls from Mar-a-Lago. Epstein died in prison while Trump was president. And when Epstein's partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, was charged with sex crimes, Trump publicly wished her well, which was odd. And so that's all a bit problematic. But thanks to the power of confirmation bias, thanks to the power of motivated reasoning, a lot of Trump's supporters were willing to go along with the idea that maybe he was doing that because he was launching like a secret investigative operation into Epstein, and that's why he pretended to be his friend. Because it is amazing the things that we can tell ourselves when we're trying to protect our ideas. And a lot of those supporters were anxiously awaiting the release of these Epstein files, which would provide a list of the famous people who had been associated with Epstein or his island or been on his plane.
And in these files, the idea or the fantasy or the conspiracy theory was once they get released, we'll now have a list of the rich and elite that are abusing their power, abusing their position.
Well, I mean, what people in the QAnon community were hoping for was something called the Storm. And the Storm was going to be this moment where all of the evil people were arrested.
Yeah.
And then all of the evil people would have these public trials, and then perhaps we would even have public executions.
Wow.
And people have been waiting for this moment for years and years. And a lot of them thought, once those files get released, it'll be all out in the open. We can finally have this amazing moment. And a lot of the people that Trump hired to important positions in administration were hired precisely because they had amplified conspiracy theories that undermined confidence in the federal government. Pam Bondi, who became the Attorney General. Kash Patel is the head of the FBI. Dan Bongino is the FBI Deputy Director. And these are the main figures who are now in the sort of the public spotlight because all of them have now come out and said, you know what? Epstein did take his own life, and there are no Epstein files.
It's wild. And so all these suspicions that everyone had are not confirmed. It brings us to now. It's sort of like there's nothing been released by the government, and all these people that were hoping for something, all these people that voted based on information in the future being released are now upset. And I think that really underscores kind of a tricky situation that the current administration finds themselves in.
Well, this is the danger. When you're not in power, conspiracy theories are great because they undermine confidence in, the federal government and things like that. But then once you are in power, you are the federal government. And so that energy that you have tried to foment in the population, that energy is not going anywhere. And once you're the federal government, there's a danger that that energy gets directed against you, especially if something like this happens, especially since even weeks ago, that administration was talking about, we're going to release the files. They did some PR stunts where they gave influencers binders that said Epstein files on them. Bondi famously said that the list was sitting on her desk waiting to be reviewed.
Now she's backtracking and she just meant the file itself, like the information that said there was nothing there, the information that concluded that Epstein just killed himself in prison and that there's no foul play. That's the files. That's the list that was on her desk. these people are backtracking, and whether we believe them or not, whatever, but those that really got, tied up in these conspiracy theories, those that really were counting on this kind of anti-establishment government, which doesn't even make sense, because once they become in power, they are the establishment. They're upset, and this fallout doesn't seem to be going away. Trump keeps on trying to shut everyone up, and it doesn't seem to be working.
Well, this is the danger of the conspiracy theory as well, because the more you try to deny a conspiracy theory from a position in power, obviously the main effect that has is it causes people to think, oh, there's got to be something to this conspiracy theory then. When Trump posted one of his longest Truth Social posts ever about how there was nothing to see here and we all need to stop talking about it, that was a pretty bad strategic move, because there was very few things that you can do other than try to say there's nothing to see here to make people say, oh, there's got to be something to see here. And so I don't see this story going away. I think of all of the things that have happened in the last few years, this is something that is not going to fall off him like water off a duck's back. Like, this is, it goes to the heart of what people like about him. And that could switch around very quickly. And what worries me is that he's going to be extremely motivated to try to change the channel. And because there's so much energy devoted to this right now, it's going to take something pretty big and pretty shocking to get people's minds off of it. I think trying to ban Rosie O'Donnell from America isn't going to be enough this time.
Yeah, that was a wild thing to read the other day. What happens when something like this happens in history? Do you have other examples in the past of political leaders that really campaigned on conspiracy theories, and then once they got in power, it became a big problem for them?
Well, nobody has done it to this degree. Nobody has relied on it to this degree, partially because there's always been a kind of protective mechanism in the form of sort of old media newspapers would be hesitant to run with some of the more ridiculous speculative claims. So it's only been since social media really took off that you've been able to really reach some of these people and really tap into that energy. So what we have to do instead is we have to look to the world of mythology and stories. Because what we're seeing here is something like a Frankenstein's monster story or a Sorcerer's Apprentice story, where you think that you can harness that energy for your own purposes. But what you don't realize is what's happening is that energy is actually harnessing you for its purpose. And you can't use that paranoid conspiracy energy for anything productive. It can only be destructive. It can only devour everything that it comes across. And so I'm very curious to see what happens in the next few weeks, because we're going to see people scrambling. We're going to see people being desperate. We are going to see some probably big political shakeups in the works. And if I could make a prediction, I'm going to argue that one of the things that might happen is that administration tries to substitute the Epstein conspiracy with some other kind of conspiracy, maybe even making the claim that the whole Epstein conspiracy itself is actually a massive conspiracy to try to discredit the administration.
Yeah, but getting back to the central point here, there's something fundamentally anti-establishment about believing in these Epstein files. There's something fundamentally anti-rich and anti-powerful in believing in this stuff. And when you are the government, you are the rich and powerful by definition in the U.S. And so this is the perfect storm. I'll be really curious to see how it resolves too. Hopefully nothing bad happens is I guess, my best hope there.
I always hope that, and I'm almost always wrong.
Check out Nathan Radke's podcast, The Uncover Up. Nathan is a professor of conspiracy studies at Humber Polytechnic. Nathan, thanks for talking to me today. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
That's the show. And don't forget, we've got a call-in number. You can call The Last Show, leave a message, questions, feedback, critical things, a long explanation of what you feed your dog. I don't care what it is. Leave us a voicemail. The number 1-888-505-6644. That's 1-888-505-6644. Also, we've got a podcast. Head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's lastshow.pizza for more details. I'm David Cooper. We'll be back tomorrow night. This is, well, it's not the penultimate show.
Big Brother is back.
Let's freaking go!
This summer, the game gets hotter, the alliances get trickier, and the blind sides, brutal.
Just a roller coaster of backstabbing and craziness.
New house guests, New twists. Same epic drama.
Bro, I'm gunning for you. You're my #1 target.
Who can you trust when everyone's watching?
Game on, baby.
Big Brother. All new Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays on Global. Stream on Stack TV.